Hello everyone, welcome to a new video on Marshal Politics. Today I'll be making a video about the Arizona Senate candidate, Blake Masters, who announced his candidacy for the United States Senate seat in Arizona, held by Senator Mark Kelly, who was elected in the special election last year. In this video, I'm just going to be talking about how he's similar to JD Vance. He's an example of a senator we need in Washington D.C. So he's basically positioned himself as a similar position as JD Vance, and they're both supported by the same individual, Peter Thiel, who is I'm pretty sure all of you know him, but he's basically this billionaire conservative investor who's invested in these nationalist campaigns. I believe he supported oh my god, I forgot his name, in Kansas, the national populist that ran there lost in the Senate race there last year in the primary. So Kobach or something, Chris Kobach. Um, and really he has sent $10 million each to Blake Masters and JD Vance for their Senate races in um, Arizona and Ohio. Um, so Blake Masters, he's never run for political office before. He's relatively unknown. I honestly didn't even know that much about him about maybe 2 months ago. Um, but based on his platform that he's laid out, and he's had several interviews, and he's announced his run for Senate. He had a speech at the Turning Point USA, I think it's Turning Point USA conference they had. Yeah, I think it was in Arizona. And he also was interviewed by Tucker Carlson on Tucker Carlson's new daytime show, Tucker Carlson Today, where JD Vance has also been interviewed. And essentially, Tucker Carlson also endorsed Blake Masters as well. So he has a background in like in big tech, and I'd say he's uh, an elite, I'd say. But a lot of people like to say that like that's some sort of downside when actually that's I actually think that's a plus actually because um, what you saw, for example, with Theodore Roosevelt, was that he was a part of the same elite that he actively worked against. I mean, he trust busted large corporations, and he was very effective in regulating capitalism, which probably saved America from probably more instability from capitalism in the Gilded Age in the early 20th century. He probably saved America as a whole. Um, so I think that's what JD Vance and like Blake Masters and all these other people are trying to do because we really live in a very, I'd say, very radicalized time, and I think that if we don't take steps to reform our system, then I mean, we're either gonna have radical left-wing dictatorship or radical right-wing dictatorship, and I mean either would be terrible for the country as a whole. So his platform is basically it's he's basically positioned himself as a national populist, as I said. Is secure the border, reduce immigration, which is interesting. Give American workers a fighting chance. Um, and he basically wants to, stop outsourcing, like the typical economic populism that Trump started talking about. And he also talked about here, and President Trump was right to draw attention to bad trade deals. We need trade policies that prioritize American workers and industry. Crackdown on crime, that's excellent. And strong national defense, not endless war. I have my own positions on that, but um, I am very anti-interventionist. Actually, I actually don't think we should. I actually don't even think that we should even. I don't think we should be giving any money to like. I don't think we should be paying that much to NATO. Or actually, you know what? No, at all, not at all, actually. So, but still, I mean, this is still a good position. Definitely better than being a warhawk. Um, he says education, non-indoctrination. This is actually a pretty important thing to me. Because I've seen a lot of people saying that um, like public schools and just like like education as a whole isn't really, I guess, that important, which I disagree. I just think that our current system is not currently geared to that purpose, and I think that we should reform it, not destroy it. But this is fine with that. He also says use, conserve, and defend nature, which is interesting. Usually, you don't see candidates mention the environment. He says we should wisely use our natural resources for our own long-term benefit. Last thing we want is to be low energy. We need a diverse and robust portfolio of energy production, everything from fossil fuels and fracking to renewables like geothermal and nuclear energy. I actually don't like fracking that much, and I'd actually much rather prefer nuclear energy, but I'm glad that he at least mentioned nuclear energy here. But really, this is all just words, and I'm still a little bit, I guess, skeptical of what he will actually do, and I hope that he is effective, which will make me pretty happy. Um, he's not that well known, obviously, so he's not like a top tier candidate yet. But I think if he continues to get his name out there, then I think he'll easily win the nomination. Um, so the current candidates, I mean, like these guys aren't really that relevant. Michael McGuire and Jim Lemon. The current, basically the guy who's leading right now is Mark Brnovich, who's the current Attorney General of Arizona. You might have heard him because of stuff with the Arizona ballot audit. I mean, of the ballot, and I'm not that like interested in that, but you've probably heard about the controversy with that and his role in that. Um, but he's the front runner right now, but there's still another candidate who might join Andy Biggs, who's the current United States representative. And in hypothetical polling, I'm sorry, in the your hypothetical polling, he's basically leading every single poll, pretty easily. So, I mean, um, that is a bit concerning for Masters, who basically has almost no support, partly because he has no rank. He basically has no name recognition, but I think that will change over time. If he runs his campaign properly, if I were him, I just this actually he when he Tucker Carlson on his show basically said that like Blake Masters and JD Vance are like these very impressive Republican candidates for Senate, and he's essentially endorsed them. I mean, it even cites it right here, like Masters endorsements Tucker Carlson right there. So I think that you should do that strategy and try to leverage that because I mean Tucker Carlson is the most highly rated cable TV news host currently. So um, another thing that you have to remember is also like the percentage of undecideds. I mean, it's pretty early, um, and I just think that Masters just has to boost his image out there, which isn't impossible. So I'm not sure if Andy Biggs will join. I do think that it is likely, and I think that if he does run, then I think that he's basically gonna win the nomination. But if he doesn't, then that will be beneficial. The other potential candidates are not really anything special, so they're probably not gonna get like too much support. Um, but yeah, uh, you also have he also had this very excellent launch video, um, basically announcing his run for Senate, and there's some very important lines in there where he says that basically need to uh make it so that families can basically live off of a single income, And I think that, I mean, like, that's a very bold, I'd say, progressive thing for a Republican candidate to say. Um, I think I do have my doubts that he will push for, you know, like minimum wage increase or um, maybe new legislation that would, I don't know, perhaps, yeah, probably, I'm not sure. Um, but I think that he does. I mean, it hasn't even been a month since he announced, so and there's still a bunch of time until the primary. So I think he still has a lot of time to make his case. So, uh, so yeah. He also has taken a good position against big tech as well. Basically, he didn't. He actually said like in another speech he'd like break them up, but then in a Rising interview, it was really interesting. He said we basically like regulate where their actual sources of income, which is basically like where they make all their money from, which is very interesting, very bold, I'd say. And he actually says it here, just
Schools that teach our
I just have
kids
to pull
to
it up.
hate our country,
Here we go.
and corporations that have gotten so big, they think they're bigger than America. It's time to put this country first. We need to enforce the law, and we need to finish the wall. We got to build an economy where you can afford to raise a
This is the
family
line.
on one single income. And instead of pretending that we can somehow fix foreign countries, we got to take care of each other right here at home. My name is Blake Masters. I'm running to represent Arizona in the United States Senate because we've got a country to save, and we can't take it for granted.
And I think the ad as a whole was pretty good. I'll put a link to that full video in the description. So there was a New York Post article about JD Vance and Blake Masters. Um, and I think they do cite the Tucker Carlson thing. Nah, actually they don't. Um, but here, Masters is co-author of the best-selling entrepreneurship book 0 to 1, and a graduate of Stanford Law, launched his campaign in Arizona with a video saying that we need to complete the border wall and make America a country where you can afford to raise a family with one single income. His campaign states that we need to spend less time exporting democracy and more time standing up to the bureaucratic national security state. Which I mean, it's excellent. So, um, and they talk more about JD Vance because I say he's the more, I guess, higher tier candidate. I think Master still has a lot of time to prove himself. Um, and this is the also over here what I was referencing before. Instead of denying elite failure, Vance and Masters are campaigning as traitors to their class. They were supposed to mouth the usual liberal pieties, which just so happened to be the markers of social distinction. They were supposed to support policy that just so happened to be in the interests of the elite, but they have refused. Says here, Vance is infuriated his former fans because he has criticized the overclass as well as the underclass. Like Masters, he has seen the American elite up close. Both men know that the cultures of Washington and Silicon Valley are no less dysfunctional than those of Appalachia. The people who made the case for war in Iraq continue to lecture the rest of the country. The tech founders who promised a new birth of freedom delivered censorship. Um, and I think this is really excellent, and I just like a lot of people have said like, oh, JD Vance has no chance of winning. I'm more concerned with Masters actually not winning. I think that Vance, I don't think he's the favorite right now. I think he has like I guess a 20-30% chance to win, maybe, and like maybe Mandel has a 40% chance of winning. I think the rest would be, I don't know, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's just mostly between Vance and Mendel. Timken is not really that significant in the primary. Um, so I think that I think that Vance definitely has a solid shot at winning. I mean, he has decent name recognition already, and a lot of people cite this poll. Oh, He has 6% support when it's literally a poll from over a month ago before he even announced his run. Um, when he hasn't even started campaigning. And by the way, it was an internal poll from the Mandel campaign. So if he's at like 6% then, I'd be willing to say he's maybe above 12% now or around that level of support in Ohio. I also saw another poll, basically, an article basically saying that he has, like, a lot of people still haven't made up their mind about him. So I think that is a good thing. Because a lot of people are saying like, oh, his stuff that he said about Trump is not like it's not going to play out well. So I mean, he definitely has a shot. I'm just more concerned with Masters winning. But anyways, back to Masters. I got kind of sidetracked there. He had his yeah, the Turning Point Trump rally in Phoenix. He said put in place policies that actually raise wages, that actually lower costs for things like healthcare and education and housing. Um, and he says here the Democrats don't care about working class people in this country. They'll say they do, but you've got to look at what they do, not what they say. And if you look at what they do, it is clear the Democrats have become the party of globalism. I mean, that's both parties, but so that's correct. And they're really corporatists too. Uh, so actually, when he said that claim about thing where he wanted families to be uh basically he wanted families to be raised off of a single income. The Pima County Democratic Party basically said um he basically quoted them and then he said that it's code for women should not work. And like these insane these insane hashtags. I mean, AZGQP. I'm pretty sure all of you know what that is. Under his eye, bonkers, Q nuts. I mean, like this is ridiculous. So I mean, the ratio down there. So I mean, like no one. This is like not even serious. So they're a complete joke. Um, but anyways, the last point. He was interviewed by Tucker Carlson. Well, I've made videos about him in the past. So here it's actually really interesting. He said it's just bunk, So I think the left has overplayed its hand now, and I think we're finally ready to see a new generation of politicians who are basically not going to be afraid of their own shadow. This is a point that JD Vance also talked about. So, oh yeah, which also it just brought me to another point. Um, that like like they're learning on this like national populist campaign, Vance and Masters, like sure that might work like in Ohio, but it's not going to work in Arizona, which I think is basically untrue. A lot of people, the reason why I think this is wrong is because really national populism is policies for everyone, really policies that benefit everyone. So, and um, I think that he's not that controversial enough. I mean, like no one even knows who he is. So I think if he's able to create a good image of himself and he's able to advertise that properly, especially using Tucker Carlson's positive endorsement of him to his advantage, I think that yeah, I don't think that will be a problem at all. I think he will win. I think he could win the primary, and I think the general election is more of a toss up on Ohio. It's basically given that the Republican nominee will win. Um. Anyways, he continued here. Oh yeah, and by the way, this part is basically just saying that like politicians in power should actually use the power they've basically been given to accomplish good, which is a speech that a point that J.D. Vance made in a speech at the National Conservative event about 2 years ago, which I showed in my previous video about J.D. Vance. Um, he also took issue with Republicans who have continued championing what he called the Reaganite dogma of free trade over fair trade. That mistake, he said, has been a boon for countries like China that essentially ignore international norms. Uh, and I think overall, I think he's a pretty good candidate. I still do think that I still need more time, I guess, to build my opinion about him. I have not heard that much about him. While with Vance, I've known him for a while. I mean, I actually did read his. I forget. I read his book Hillbilly Elegy. A very good book, by the way. You guys should read it. Um, so I think that overall, I think that Masters and Vance are really the candidates for the future for the Republican Party, and I think that as a whole, I think these people should be supported, and um, I think they'd be able to make a fundamental change in our country, hopefully. And I don't want them. And this I'm gonna conclude this video here. I want an actual, I guess, a right wing populist. I guess like a caucus or like some sort of group in the Senate, or we can have congressmen too, or women even. Um, who actually fight for the correct ideals of national populism, you know, non-interventionism, economic nationalism. I really like that term because it is really what I care about most. Because I mean, we've seen policies that only benefit corporations and the select few at the top who actually don't really care about their country. And libertarians claim that like they're the bedrock for American society and all they're so important, they're so great. We shouldn't regulate them at all, which is actually not true at all. I think that these people are really reprehensible. I think that the values they push for are not just wrong, but just really evil and terrible to our country. Like all this social liberalism that is continually pushed by multinational corporations, not to mention the oppression of their workers and the refusal to even treat them as people. I mean, like I don't know if you guys have seen um, the strikes in I think it was Oklahoma or Kansas. The Frito Lay workers who were, I mean, it's unbelievable what they're doing to them. There's a lot of libertarians out there like, oh, they're just whining, they're complaining, they're just complaining about doing work, which is not true at all. It's just the same libertarian garbage argument that you constantly see, and I think we need to get away from that. And I think that like Masters and JD Vance and Josh Hawley and all these national popular centers are really um, the instruments for change we need. Um, and just remember that um, countries aren't just change; they aren't changed by a group of people. They're by like a large group of people. It's usually just a few select individuals really change history forever. I mean, look at Napoleon. Look at even Hitler. I mean, like he didn't change it for the better, I'd say. But he certainly changed history independently by himself. Caesar, I mean, Huey Long, all these great people who were able to use their power and accomplish their goals and really change the world and mold it in their own vision. Um, and yeah, I think that's how I will conclude this video. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'm not sure how long this one was, but I do hope you enjoyed the video either way. Um, and I hope you all have an excellent day. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'll put that link in the description. I'll put a link to Blake Masters' Twitter, and I'll put the links to all the pages I've used, his website, this article here, and the Fox News thing as well. Anyways, I hope you all have an excellent day, and I will see you all in the next video. Farewell, and have a good day. Or, yeah, have a good day. Or night.